Welcome, friends. Diana Gaddis, realtor, community market leader, savvy Florida agent, here tonight this evening on my evening walk. Look at that gorgeous sunset behind me. Ah, wouldn't you love to sit in the evening after dinner and watch this every single night? This can be your dream life, absolutely. You know, there's ways that we make changes in our life to reach our goals and to change some things so that we can enjoy aspects of life like this, if that is your goal. It has always been one of mine. I've always needed to live by the water, and I especially wanted to live in Florida and on the ocean and beach property. So I'm very excited and very pleased to be in this area. I'm graciously grateful every single day for the blessings that God has bestowed upon my life. And I thank the good Lord every day for those things. And I thank the good Lord for each one of you as well. So I'm here this evening. I'm going to discuss a little bit more in depth about my book, Parenting with Purpose, Character Development Through Faith, Biblical Principles. And I'll tell you, I truly, again, I raised 6 children, so I'm truly graciously grateful for the opportunities that I've had with regards to each one of my children. Now, remember, we want to raise our children so that they are our friends, right? We want them to be our friends in our adulthood. We want to be friends and have a good relationship with them in our adulthood. So it's important to remember that and consider that. And so a couple of things that I wanted to point out with regards to how I fostered that with my children. Because let me tell you, when you're laying down the law and you're making rules, and through all those years, especially those teenage years, you know, when they're in middle school and high school, depending on their personalities, it becomes a little bit difficult. I'm going to start walking here. Okay. Just want to show that beautiful sunset. So you see that beautiful sunset over the river. Now remember, all the properties that you see in my walk, they all have boat docks in the backyard. Every single one of them on both sides of the road. You know why? Because this is where we live. And so in my backyard, I have a pool that's enclosed by a screen enclosure that I can enjoy all the time, and a boat dock, private boat dock, right along the canal. So I have access to the river, and right straight down the river is the mouth of the Gulf of Mexico. And to the right is Pine Island, to the left is Fort Myers Beach, and straight ahead is Sanibel Island. So it's a gorgeous area to live. It is a wonderful place to retire. It is a great place to have resort property and properties, rental properties. There's many real estate opportunities in this area, in spite of what economic conditions look like, in spite of what mortgages are currently. Hello. Hi, Levi. I'm glad you could join me. So keep that in mind. I'm here to help you meet your real estate goals. And now talking about parenting with purpose. So again, I'm talking about, you know, my 6 children that I raised because they're adults now. And I'm graciously grateful for the opportunities that I've had with each one of my children. But one of the things that my children have really, they're good people in their hearts. They are good people and they're good to people. And so I had to foster that. And I had to foster that through their years so that they wouldn't have an embittered heart. And I tell you, it's work. It is work. You have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about how you interact with your children and what you really want to instill into their lives so that they are prepared and they have good hearts towards others. So one of the things that I talked about in a previous video was the power of forgiveness and how I incorporated that into our household so that my children would forgive one another so they could be friends in their adulthood. Gosh, you know, I mean, there are many families in this world that just are not friends, and they reach their different points where they're not speaking to one another, whether it's parents, whether it's adult children, adult siblings. It's quite fascinating how that happens and why that happens. And by instilling forgiveness and unconditional love in the household and modeling that, it helps lay a strong foundation to stay in relationship with one another. So one of the scriptures, well, there's many scriptures about love. I don't have them memorized. However, when we speak of love, it covers a multitude of sins. So when you have a loving heart towards others, that is what is exaggerated or exemplified, which is the good stuff. And so the bad stuff is minimized. So in doing that, it was very important that my children expressed love with words, saying, I love you. Now, I love my mom and dad. I have very good parents. And I hope that my kids say that that my husband and I were very good parents as well. However, we all know that we're not perfect beings. And in that parenting, in my parents' parenting style, my whole childhood, growing up into my adulthood, they never said, I love you. Never. Because it's just in their generation, in that culture of where they came from in Eastern Europe, they came from a communist country and they had many hardships. In their childhood, they saw war and tremendous losses. And, those things affect people. And having the wisdom and graciousness to understand that in my adulthood, it keeps me in a loving attitude and gentleness and grace. And I think it's very important. So that is one of the things, because we never said that in our family. I wanted to make sure that my children verbalize that. Well, when you're saying things, what the words that come out of your mouth, your actions start to follow that. You start thinking that and your actions start following that. So when I'm saying, I love you, or my children are saying, I love you, Mom, I love you, Dad, I love you, sister, I love you, brother, calling out each one's names and getting them in that habit when they were little. So from the ages of 0 to 7, especially 0 to 4, instilling that in them and helping to cultivate that the children return to that. And the Bible says that too, that lay the foundation. Again, I don't have scripture memorized, but if you lay that foundation for your children, you lay the foundation of where they should go in, and they will not go from it. They will always come back to it. So by laying those foundations at a very young age, my children have that intertwined within them. And so regardless of what goes on, they love their siblings, and I'm very graciously grateful for that. You were told you were never. Yeah. See, a lot of people do that. I don't know. I think it was a generational thing. There was a period of time when people didn't say "I love you," and they didn't say that to their children. Children were to be seen and not heard, right? So you had to be quiet and be obedient, and then, gosh, the wrath of punishment would come down upon you if you didn't do. It was kind of an authoritarian kind of way, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of what I experienced. And let me tell you, I had good parents. My parents, they loved me. They were good to me. I had many opportunities in my life, and I'm graciously grateful for that. However, there's all these other aspects too, and every family has that. But this is the importance of forgiveness and the importance of love, because above all else, we have to love. We have to love people. We have to love others. That is one of God's greatest commandments. When we can act and respond in that kind of a manner, and we teach our children to act and respond in that kind of a manner, they learn some great relationship skills. And one of the things that they learn is how to deal with themselves, how to deal with others, and how to stay in good relationship with others. You know, Stephen Covey wrote a book. Um, what is it? 7 Habits of Highly Successful People? Yes. Yes. And one of the habits is um, seek to understand instead of being understood. When you learn to understand others and what motivates them and where their behaviors come from, more so than you're being understood, you learn a certain graciousness for individuals, and you learn how to love and deal with others in spite of their personalities, behaviors, and how they respond. And that's so important. Carl, right? Yeah, I believe I can do better too, Carl. In fact, we practice to do better. Absolutely. And that's what our parents want, and we want for our children is for them to be better than us, and our parents wanted us to be better than them. Of course, you know. And there's intentional ways of doing that. The Bible also speaks of the fruits of the Spirit, and that I took very seriously as well. Okay, because not everybody is born with good self-control, right? And so sometimes that's a learned behavior, and you have to learn to integrate that into your life. And I always go back to this, with one of my oldest children, my son, my oldest son. He gentleman is very intelligent, extremely intelligent. He's a computer whiz, computer guru. In fact, he's getting masters in cybersecurity right now, masters in computer science right now, and it's quite fascinating because when he was a child growing up, again, the video games started, and that's when gaming became very big and popular. That's also when social media started becoming very big and popular with the cell phones, because we got it wasn't the smartphones didn't come out until one of them graduated high school. So it's quite fascinating going through that era with the children, and seeing how that affected each one of them, and how that was integrated in their lives, and what it did and what we faced as parents. But with my son, and I mentioned this before, I paid attention to those ratings on the back of those video games. Call of Duty especially. And the Call of Duty is rated as mature 16 and older. And so everybody in junior high school, 12, 13, 14 years old, they're playing Call of Duty. And here I wouldn't get it for my son. Oh boy, was that a contentious issue. That truly was a contentious issue. And now, and let me tell you, he was hypersensitive to things, just hypersensitive to what went on in the emotional connection in any video games. And so I had to limit his video game playing, and I had to limit what he was playing. And so to see him, and so there was a fine balance, because you don't want to discourage somebody from their passions, because he understands those kinds of logical issues with gaming and software development and computers, and it's quite fascinating, and he's making a living at it. So you have to find that balance, but yet had to initiate some self-control with regards to gaming and boundaries. And that was extremely important because it affected his behavior and his emotions and how he interacted with others. So putting a limit on that and setting limits and boundaries in that helped him to establish his own limits and boundaries with how much he would be playing games. And then he started, now he's in his adulthood, so he's looking at, things like, oh, does this add value to me? Does this add value to my life? How is this adding value to me? Oh, this is not adding value to me, so maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But, it's because also that these foundations were laid for him, that he is able to come back to that, reflect on it, and discern whether these things are good for him or not. So it's important to stay adamant about what you're doing in your parenting, consistent in what you're doing in your parenting, and be certain that you are laying good foundations for character and value development. The other thing is honesty, integrity. Honesty and integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. That was big in our house, because I know that God blesses somebody even when they're doing uh, little things. And one of the things, one of the ways that I was trained to do this was, and God had me in training, is okay, when we're finished grocery shopping, go put the grocery cart back. Don't leave it in the parking lot, right? So that was one of the ways that I trained myself too, is to have integrity, is to start doing more of the right things when no one is looking. And God blesses that. He really, really does. And to instill that in your children is so extremely important, because that too helps to foster educational opportunities and lifelong learning to put into their lives, because it is with the boundaries of what they have established and learned through their childhood, incorporating that into their adulthood helps them to be successful. So honesty as well, you know, we I don't the friends that I have are I mean, I like to believe have these values. Okay. Um, and I'll put this into perspective a little bit. When you are in a relationship with your partner, you know, with your husband, with your spouse, and I'm going to use myself as an example. When I'm in a relationship with my husband, I want to be honest in that relationship. And being honest in that relationship, the relationship grows and fosters in a positive manner. If I am dishonest in that relationship, things aren't good. You know, they're just not. It takes more energy to lie and be deceitful than it does to be honest, truthful, kind, and happy. Can you believe that? It takes more energy to do the opposite. So make some decisions about, and children, they model your behavior. Children model your behavior. So how you behave and how you act and how you interact with others is modeled to your children. So in given situations, and I know some parents that have done this, you know, in given situations, if something, let's take a school incident, okay? Your son or daughter is telling you about a school incident, and something that happened between you and this other person at school. You know, he and this other person, or she and this other person at school, and what happens is they and they get to a point of, but I got in trouble, mom, and I didn't do anything, and they really didn't, you know, and or what they did was, in comparison to what somebody else did, was very minute. And so you as a parent have a choice as to how you're going to handle that situation in that teachable moment, because that's a teachable moment. Are you going to consider giving godly advice that is going to teach them wisdom and help them stretch themselves as an individual, that is going to interact in a positive manner, that is honest with integrity and responsibility? Or are you going to give them advice that says, well, you know what, next time a situation comes up like that, just lie and say this? You know, that's the easy way out. You know, you as a parent, you're the first teacher. The school is not the first teacher. The administrator, the principal, the assistant principal is not the first teacher, nor the teacher in the classroom. They are not the first teacher to your child. You are. And that's something that you have to remember. You cannot push the responsibility of parenting off onto educators and the school. You must grasp that responsibility and take it upon yourself. And it's not an easy task, but you are charged with that task. What's happening in the schools is they are just facilitating the teaching and learning process of meeting curriculum requirements. How you respond to that and support that is what teaches your child. Your expectation, your support mechanism, how you foster that growth and academic growth, that is what teaches your child. Your attitude towards school, your attitude towards academics. You know, teachers in schools aren't miracle workers. We can't make somebody love school when they're in a household of maybe one adult that hated school. Because, you know, that child wants to self-identify with you as a parent. They are part of you. They are half of you. So of course, they are going to respond and be like you because that is their role model. You are the most important thing in their life, whether they know it or not, whether you know it or not. And you need to take that upon yourself as a responsibility. Now, share this video with your friends. Hit the like and subscribe button. I'm going to put a link to my books into the description. Please feel free, buy a book. It's an ebook. I have an ebook. I have the paperback. I have the hardback. I'll put that all in there. And you have a great and blessed evening. Diana Gaddis, Savvy Florida agent, community market leader, digital marketing specialist, parent, educator, leader, author. Have a gracious evening.